Good evening, everybody, and welcome to The Guide to Life. I'm your host, Matt Trotz, and The Guide to Life is always brought to you by The Real Shot. And speaking of The Real Shot, I just want to remind everybody that I trust and believe in everything that The Real Shot sells. So do me a favor, if you're going to go shop online at therealshot.com, use my code TGLTV20, and that'll take $20 off a purchase of $100 or more on regularly, say that 3 times fast, priced items. So again, that's TGLTV2020. Before you check out, that'll save you $20 if you spend over $100 or more on therealshot.com. So this is going to be a fun one tonight. We got an awesome guest tonight. I can't wait to introduce him and talk to everything that's going on out in Nebraska. But I got a couple more housekeeping things first and foremost, some things that are coming up the pipeline for the Guided Life. Next week, we should be releasing the episode I did with Vince Heatree in Fishboy Guide Service when we did one last outing for the 2022 ice season, and it was an awesome one. We caught a ton of crappies, so that one should be releasing next week. That'll probably just be the episode. I don't know if we're going to do a in-studio version of that one. It's pretty long. It's about 30 to 35 minutes or so right now, so there's going to be a lot of awesome content on that one. Vince does a great job, and he had some awesome people out with him at the time. So that one's coming up. I have an awesome A-rig video that we're working on. We had some fun on the Fox River. So there's a couple of episodes that should be coming forth in the next couple of weeks. The other thing too in the next couple of weeks is turkey season. So if you're looking for any turkey information, any turkey decoys, any turkey ammo, stuff like that, go visit my friends at The Real Shot. They'll help take care of you. April 21st, I did post this on my Facebook and Instagram pages. I will be at the St. Agnes Men's Club. It's called their Fisherman's Night Out. That is April 21st. I believe it starts around 5:30, and I'll be there on behalf of Head to Head Fishing, talking for about 10 to 15 minutes on all the great stuff for Head to Head, some of our upcoming events, and things like that. I do have a note here that it is open to the public. They asked for a $12 donation, and you can get tickets available at the St. Agnes Parish office and at the door, and that is in the Green Bay area. So if you are Appleton, Green Bay, or the Fox Cities, and you are attending that event, I'll be there for a little bit. I'll be doing my speaking right around 6:45. Again, talking on behalf of Head to Head Fishing. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's some really cool stuff. The other thing too is we had Charlie Wanty on here with the Wapaka Learn to Hunt. That's actually starting next week. That kicks off on Thursday for that classroom event like Charlie was talking about. And then the hunt is actually next weekend, Saturday, Sunday. So again, if you are looking to be a first-time turkey hunter, or if you are or know somebody that is a first-time turkey hunter and they're looking for a great opportunity, reach out to the Wapaka Learn to Hunt chapter. They do a phenomenal job. I'll be there with the camera, and we're going to film some of that stuff, and we should have an awesome episode going forth with that one. So that, again, starts Thursday as a class portion of it, so that's April 7th, and then the hunt is that Saturday and Sunday. It's a great opportunity. I highly, highly recommend it. I won't be mentoring this year because I'll be filming on behalf of the Guided Life, but they do such a great job. Hopefully the weather changes for us and the birds start gobbling and start, acting like springtime turkeys. I was up the other morning, heard a couple of turkeys gobbling near my house, so I'm starting to get the itch. Leftover tags went on sale, so if you haven't taken advantage of any leftover tags like I need to do, now is the time. And that's one thing we're going to talk to our guest tonight about is turkey hunting in Nebraska. It's one of those things that I've always wanted to do, haven't never done it yet, but I think this gentleman is going to be the right person to help me get, potentially make that bucket list thing a reality. So Andy, are we good to go with him, or are we still having some issues with that? Okay. So I apologize. We're slight delay. Technology is wonderful. We're trying to get our guest, who is Andy Classen, who is the founder and one of the hosts at Chasin the Dream TV, and they're out of Nebraska, and they do such a great job. Andy, are you there?
I think so. I think we're back on.
Yeah! Don't you just love technology, buddy?
I know. I watched your whole intro there, and then you started introducing me, and then it just went blank, of course.
Of course, that's the way it goes. So I appreciate you making the time tonight. I'm really looking forward to our chat. The first thing I want you to do is introduce yourself to the Guided Life fans. Tell everybody your full name and your family and what you do for hobbies and everything like that.
Well, right on. And first off, I'm just excited to be here, and I love what you guys are doing. Matt, you do a phenomenal job. We've been following you for years now, and of course, we're big fans of the head-to-head fishing and all that. That's what you guys do with that, the tournaments, the live broadcast, all of it. We really get into that. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, I appreciate it, man, and likewise, you are doing a phenomenal job, and you do so many things besides just host the Chasin the Dream TV. So again, kind of just go into the bio of you and how everything got started.
Right on. I'll try not to go on too long, but if you're going to give me a soapbox, I guess I'll get on top of it here.
Stand up, buddy, and let her rip.
So, I was born and raised in a real small town up in northeast Nebraska, and we had a little ranch, little farm. So the outdoors is always a big part of my upbringing. Deer camp with Uncle Eddie and my dad and the guys. That was my favorite time of year. And once I started getting older and getting more involved, that just always stuck with me. And then when I got into college, and I actually played football at the NAI level. I wasn't that good or anything, small scholarship, but that overlapped football. So I didn't get to go deer hunting there for like 4 or 5 years. So, I just missed it like crazy. And something that kind of came about was my father and I started an outfitting a guide service on our ranch. And it's been going strong ever since like 2005, 2006. And the name of that is Ponca Creek Outfitters. So that's kind of where my professional, if you will, and deer guiding and guiding turkey hunts, that's kind of where it all started for me.
So, you answered everything I want to know, but I want to back up a little bit because one of the questions I have is you said you play in sports, and you mentioned you played a little football, collegiate football. Talk about that a little bit. What position? Did you guys have a good squad those couple of years you were in school?
We did have a couple good squads. Small state school here in Nebraska, down in the southeast corner, Peru State College. And that fit me perfectly because it was a small school right on the Missouri River, so I could sneak away and go fishing or do whatever. And yeah, sports was another big part of my upbringing. My dad was always my baseball coach. And you play all sorts of sports when you go to a small high school. You're expected to be a multi-sport type of guy. So that fit me perfectly. And for me, being part of that team, playing college football, it kept me on a schedule. And I feel like it really helped me get my degree because I was accountable then to the team. I had to keep my eligibility. I had to keep my grades up. So I played defense, defensive back. And then when we got into a nickel type of defense, I'd play outside linebacker, that hybrid type of spot. And for not being any bigger than I am, I would mix it up, Matt. I almost led the team in tackles my senior year.
Wow, man, that's awesome. So, did you guys go like any big wins, like any championship style stuff?
Our biggest games were always the losses, I would say. You know how you see like the University of Michigan, they'll play like Akron or Akron State or something like that. Well, that goes downhill. So Akron would pay us to go lose to them. So we would like bankroll Peru State College's their sports budget. I swear to goodness we did. And it was all due to playing teams way out of our league. Like South Dakota, that year they knocked off a D1 school. We ended up going up there to Vermilion, South Dakota, and just they boxed our ears in,
A lot like my face looks like right now. I feel your pain a little bit.
I was gonna say, it looks like you made a joke about a hair loss or something there.
Yeah, I'll make a lot of jokes, Andy, and a lot of people don't think they're funny. Any recognizable names that you may have played against when you played college football?
Oh yeah, we had a nice little rivalry. Well, it was a one-sided rivalry, but Northeast Oklahoma uh, would play us every year, and their shtick was whoever got in trouble on D1, whether it be not going to class, failing a drug test, whatever, they would scoop them up. From University of Tennessee, USC. So they had all this D1 talent playing on an NIL level. So and they would always be one of the Final Four teams. But they had Patrick Creighton. He was a longtime receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. He led the conference in passing yards and receiving yards.
What did you do? Just pass to himself or what?
No, they would be winning by like 45 points by the time the middle of the third quarter came around. So then they let him play receiver, and he would torch the defense as a receiver. I was a second string at that time, and I was just getting so frustrated because he would just make any kind of move and just blow by our guys. And one time we had a blitz on, and when he was quarterback, and it was just he was running right into the blitz. I'm like, we finally got him. And he made a little wiggle move, and he ran for another 40 yards. Unbelievable. So I'm getting all burned up, and then I finally get to go play, and he's playing receiver at this point. This is the third quarter, fourth quarter. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to roll up, and I'm going to jack this guy. I'm going to really get into him. He sidestepped me, blew by. 50-yard catch. It was unbelievable. I'm like, okay, that's a 4.3 40. I get it now.
Yep. You try to do a little bump coverage. He says, "I see you," but that's not happening.
No, my 40-yard dash couldn't compare to Patrick Creighton's, and yeah, now I get it. That's next level stuff.
But just think about that experience for what you took. You maybe didn't win that game, you maybe gave up a touchdown, but that's something you can tell a lot of people, and that's still a success story in my book.
Oh yeah, when you're not playing football, even when you're playing football for like the University of Nebraska or Michigan or whatever, most of those guys don't go pro.
Yep.
It's all about getting your education and doing what you love to do for those precious few years you have left. Especially football and like basketball, that's a young man's game. And I was very fortunate that I got to hold on to that a little bit longer than most.
So speaking of education, what was it, if I missed it, I apologize, that you did go to college for?
Well, I got a bachelor's of science in business management, very broad, so I was taking all these different classes, writing classes, business 101. And then since I redshirted in football, I stayed another extra year, and a lot of my classes spilled over to a marketing degree. So I was able to actually graduate with a double major. And once again, that was due to athletics, due to sports. I probably wouldn't have stuck around that extra year and picked up two majors had it not been for football.
So, football in high school, football in college, it helps teach you discipline, helped put you through college. Kept you disciplined in that. And that is something that maybe some people overlook, especially on the hunting and fishing side of the world. Like, right. Not wanting to take a gamble, paying attention to the small details, being disciplined not to go into this spot if the wind's not right, not to blow out a spot. So, you being a hunter, you being an athlete, that all just spills over to being successful in hunting and fishing and everywhere.
Oh, it really does. And I think patience is a big part of it for me. You got to adjust, and maybe you're in the wrong spot, but more times than not, it's what you do before the hunt that's going to lead you to success. Whether that's getting out on the trail cams, setting up mineral licks, planting food plots. Like, we get really involved, not only on the outfitter side, but for our TV show and YouTube channel and stuff like that. We want to stack the odds in our favor, and that takes a lot of preparation and a lot of hard work. Your world-class whitetail deer, they're not just going to wander onto your ranch, and if they do, it's a long shot, and it's not going to be a sustainable deal in order to kind of make it in this outdoors industry as far as being a media company.
So I actually got a comment here in one of our live chats, and somebody noticed something behind your left-hand shoulder. Is that R2-D2 on the wall back there?
That is. That's my son Ozzy. He just turned 6. He's really going through a Star Wars phase right now, which that's okay with me. And and that's his colorful rendition of R2D2. He likes to have a lot of fun with it. And the flamingo, that's Kimber's. She's our 4-year-old girl, and she likes pink things.
So that's awesome. So and that kind of filters in with everything we're talking about as we get to know you on a personal level. Is talk a little bit about your family.
Well, so I met my wife at Peru State College, and sometimes I think the only reason she did marry me and stick around was because she wanted to get into the outdoors herself. She loves deer hunting. She loves. We have a little Cabela's grinder, so we make our own. She calls it burger, deer burger.
Yep.
Have our little way of doing it. Same with turkey. Every Thanksgiving, we're the couple that brings the wild bird to the table. So that's been a lot of fun, and it's probably my favorite type of hunting is when I'm with her out on a turkey hunt, when I'm calling for her. And as far as Ozzy and Kimber, I just love it. We live on a little lake here, suburb of Omaha, and whenever I can sneak out and take them fishing, I jump at it. And I'm kind of blessed in that that's what Ozzy and Kimber want to do. They're always asking me, "Can we go fishing now? Can we go fishing?" So I'm very blessed in that regard.
So I want to call you out on something. We all know that your wife married you because she heard you have a big ranch, and that's why that's the thing. Like we always hear that joke going around. It's like, how many acres does your family own? And she found that out. She's like, yeah, this is the guy for me.
You know what? The more you think about it, the more it makes sense. It really does. So I love Ashley, and I think she loves me, but she might love my ranch just as much, maybe a little more.
So with like as we transition to what do you do right now for a full-time job? And I want to get into Chasing the Dream as how that all started and everything like that. But is that the full-time job you have right now?
It's one of my full-time jobs.
Yep.
So I work for a media company by the name of News Channel Nebraska, and it's an independent channel, and you can describe it as Nebraska's own CNN or Fox News. I don't want to say one way or the other, but it's an independent news channel that's on 24/7, always bringing Nebraskans across the state. Like every basic cable package has News Channel Nebraska on it within the state. And just like a lot of these different networks and channels, they need content. So, and they need people to do stuff. So early on, they snagged me to be an ag reporter and to help out with sports broadcasting. So I wear many different hats for them, and I do a lot of sports broadcasting, doing high school and collegiate football, volleyball, basketball. So that keeps me really, really busy. And then on the weekends, and this is something I pitched to the network 4 or 5 years ago now. Hey, we're light on content on the weekends. What about a hunting and fishing show where we, hunt and fish across Nebraska? What do you think? And they jumped at it. They loved the idea, and we've been going strong Saturday and Sunday mornings on News Channel Nebraska ever since.
And that's where Chasing the Dream TV got its start, was on that channel?
Yes. Yep. Saturday and Sunday mornings.
Wow, that's awesome, man. I mean, congratulations to you. I mean, you go from broadcasting a lot of games, which is tough. I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize how much homework goes into doing that. Is that something you want to talk a little bit more about?
Yeah, I didn't ask for this, and it just kind of fell into my lap, but it just fit me perfectly. It was like a dream job. And I got paired up with some really good people. My partner, the play-by-play guy, he was terrific and kind of coaching me up that first year. And we were getting after it because it was still a young company. So we had multiple channels before we kind of merged it into one. And they were trying to make like an ESPN type of channel where it's all sports. So that first winter when we launched, we were doing boys and girls game basketball Tuesday night, Thursday night, sometimes Friday and Saturday. So, I mean, and that got to be tough because I was away from home for extended periods of times, multiple days a week, but we did it. We grinded, we figured it out. And, by mid-season, as they say, mid-season form.
Yep.
We had something pretty good going on. And now we've elevated to a point where people kind of confuse our broadcasts for, some pretty high flying stuff. It's been wild to see. And once again, I was fortunate to be in that spot, but then I did my homework. I know how to talk sports, and I love sports, so it all just kind of came together, and it fit really well.
Yeah, and it's one thing, and again, like with the homework that goes into it, the nerves that go into it, first and foremost, like you got to be pretty crisp with your words at times. You got to be thinking ahead the whole entire time you're talking about something. And that's what I have to dealing with head-to-head fishing. It's like
Right.
you got to be able to listen, you got to be able to watch, and you got to be able to think of something to talk about on the fly. And I'm not a super smart guy. I don't know how I can pull it off sometimes.
Oh, I know, and being the color analyst as I am on all these broadcasts, I got to be watching what the defense is doing. Did they change? Is the offense trying something new? And then I got to kind of break it down and put it in layman's terms. And then I'm always trying to bring a comical side to it as well, And with high school kids, there's a line I will not cross, and that's where you're throwing shade at them or something like that.
Yep.
So you want to keep it so positive, and I try to be positive anyway, so that's never been an issue. But I do that's one of the things I hear is, well, that guy was fouling and he was being a jackwagon. Why didn't you call him out? It's like, nah, that's not what we're here to do. That's not what we're here to do. Is beat up on high schoolers. Come on.
Right. You got to keep it classy sometimes. But then again, people appreciate your opinion, and people appreciate the honesty too. So it's like you said, it's a very fine line that you walk as a commentator, as a broadcaster. And when you do that, then you transition into the outdoor world, and that kind of helps you because what is the fine line that I can walk on but still bring relative and entertaining content? And for you and I living in that world as hosts and then as outdoorsmen, there's a lot of temptation there, and I want to get into Chasing the Dream. So you presented that to the news station. They absolutely loved the idea. Where did you go from there once you got into Chasing the Dream TV?
So I kind of pitched them the idea, and they thought, okay, great. Well, I'm like, all right, now that I got a soft green light, a go ahead go. I was actually reading the newspaper. The Omaha World Herald is one of the biggest newspapers here in the state. And one of the back page articles was over this young man by the name of Garrett Hikus. And he just graduated from Northeast Community College with a degree in photography and videography. And his dream job was to start an outdoor show. And I'm like, this can't be real. He just graduated. Now he's looking for work. So I called the newspaper. They gave him my number, and he called me a day later, and we've been going strong ever since. So we formed Rowan Productions, and that's our main thing is we produce the TV show, but then we'll also do commercials, and he does some graduation pictures, things like that under this company that we formed. Gee whiz, 5-6 years ago now.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So, do you remember the first episode that you put out for Chasing the Dream TV?
Oh, very much so. It was an excellent episode, and it gave everyone this thought that this is going to be stellar. Wow! It was actually Garrett's capstone or final project. He went on a caribou hunt up in Newfoundland after a subspecies of caribou that his taxidermist was after. And so he had all semester long to work on this, 30-minute episode, and it was just phenomenal, and it was crazy. It was caribou, something you don't always see. It was archery in the woods, and then after that, people took notice, of course. But then we were scrambling like, oh my gosh, we need to come up with some content. We need spring to roll around so we can go turkey hunting and film it. So we were kind of behind the 8 ball there. Looking back at it, we probably should have filmed for a year and edited for a year, then rolled it out. But we didn't know what we were doing, and maybe we still don't. We just said, look, green light, go. And so we've been going ever since.
Well, and that's something that you and I talk about quite a few times, or a few times, is the live versus the semi-live versus the content that you and I discuss, and we try to get creative and come up with all the time. It's extremely tough game to play. I mean, there's a lot of competition in this field, and when you're trying to do crossover stuff between hunting and fishing, there's a lot of competition, and it's hard to always get the good content and be creative with it as well.
It really is, and I think where we've kind of come to terms with it is we just got to be ourselves.
Yep.
And I like to hunt, I like to fish, and I got a firm understanding that I'll never be the best at either.
Yep.
So let's just have fun and let people be a part of that. And now Garrett, he's another animal. He might be the best bow hunter I've ever met in my life. I mean, you want to talk about putting in the work and doing your homework, and he gets so involved with the food plots and hanging different stands. And you see that in, especially on the YouTube channel, on his short videos, like how he is constantly grinding in the field. So he'll have a successful November.
Yeah, and I want you to hit on this, and we're going to do this a number of times tonight, but let everybody know where they can go to watch some of your stuff as we continue our conversation. Watch it. They should subscribe, follow you on Instagram, Facebook. Tell everybody what the exact titles are.
Yeah, so it's Chasin the Dream TV, and it's a hyphen Chasin, just CHASIN hyphen the Dream TV. That's on Facebook. We're also on Twitter, but we're not really active. It's like, where do you draw the line and when's enough?
Yep.
But we do have a Twitter handle. Our YouTube channel is seeing some pretty good growth. That's another thing that, back in the day we had it, but we didn't focus on it very much. We were just trying to get the cable TV show going, up and running, But now we're focusing more on the YouTube channel, so that's some really good stuff coming out there. And we're starting to see some good growth with that too, which I think our content is starting to, kind of take the next step up as well.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with that. Some of the stuff that you and Garrett have been putting out there, I've been paying attention to some of the last deer episodes, and they've been phenomenal. We got some pictures that we can show here a little bit later on, but let's get into springtime in Nebraska.
All right, let's do it.
And as we I want to get in, and this is going to lead right into your outfitter business as well. But we're looking at turkey hunting, my man. And are the rivers open by you as well right now, or are you still dealing with like a late winter like we have in Wisconsin?
Nope. Rivers are open. We had a couple really nice warm days, like we're almost gotten to the 70s, down in the southern Nebraska. But now we're going through another cold snap. But as soon as it warms up and the sun comes out, the gobblers they are strutting. They're not wasting any time. They're very vocal, and they're already getting after it. So it's a good time in Nebraska, especially if you like to chase around the thunder chickens.
Well, and your season already started, right?
It has, and Garrett the Grinder, I'll go back to it. He got out with some of his video dudes, and they sealed the deal the other day, opening day. So we already have some content in our back pocket. I'm thrilled to death.
So one of the reasons that Nebraska is on my bucket list for turkey hunting is the species that are in that state. Can you talk about what species of turkey live in Nebraska, depending on what portion you're in?
It really has a lot to do with where you're at. And some of those pictures I sent, you could tell they're all different. So if you're on the eastern side of the state, you're pretty much only going to see eastern birds. Maybe some with a little bit lighter coloring like a Rio, and that's exactly what you see in the southern, especially southwestern part of the state are Rios. And then in the northwestern, you see a lot, just none but Merriams. You know what I mean? I mean, white, their feather tips are as white as a napkin. And our ranch is pretty fortunate that we have a lot of those kind of a Rio looking, but we also have those true Merriams where they're undeniable just how bright and white and colorful they are.
So I want to get into this. Now I'm going to do my best. We got a new system today on how I can share pictures here. So I'm going to try to bring up a picture, and this one I think is of a turkey that you shot, and then I want you to kind of tell the story. So I'm going to try this here. I think this is the right picture. I'm going to bring this, and all right, you can see that, right?
Yes, I can.
What are we looking at here, buddy?
That's the biggest tom I've ever taken. So that's a tom that was just off the Missouri River, north of Omaha, about an hour or so, on some really cool, heavy wooded ground with some agriculture, sprinkled in there. This guy was loud and proud. It's an Eastern with those 4 beards. I mean, I didn't. I knew he had a lot going on there, but I had no idea he had 4 beards when I sealed the deal and took the shot.
Yeah, I'm trying to filter, and I'm filtering through some of the pictures of that thing, and okay, so 4 beards. What was the main beard? How long was that one?
That was right under a foot. It was right about 11 inches there.
And then
11 and a half, you can stretch it.
yeah. And then what about the 3 other beards? I mean, those look like 4 or 5 inches maybe?
Yeah, 4.5, I want to say, and this was just an amazing hunt. I like to get set up with just my back against a tree and the shotgun over my lap. And then I'm old school. You saw that box call in the previous picture. That's what I predominantly use. And then when they start coming in or they get hung up at like 40 yards, like a lot of times they do, then I'll switch over to a slate call and start purring, and they can't resist. They got to come in after that. But that box call is my favorite, and that seems to really get him going and be vocal. So he came in with 2 other toms, but those 2 other toms, they stayed dormant. They knew that it wasn't their place to strut, so they stayed folded up and let him put on the show. And I bet I had him at about 10 yards, just going crazy with the decoys, beating up the decoys and all that fun stuff.
Now, was that bird filmed, or was that just one you were out by yourself and not bringing the camera along that day?
That was not filmed. That was kind of before we really got into the filmmaking part of it. And that was a hunt where I was set up on one side of the woods and Ashley was set up on the other side. And it was just kind of whichever way they were going to come out of the roost, and I lucked out that time.
So I got a bunch of questions about this turkey. I mean, that thing is unbelievable. What did it weigh, and how long were the spurs on that thing?
I actually don't have any of the measure. I will tell you, he was a heck of a lot bigger than the other 2 toms, and those other 2 toms probably had, your typical 9-inch, maybe 10-inch beards, but he was so much bigger than them, and he barely fit, in our little freezer. We kind of had to fold him up. And his spurs, I got them hanging up back here, but no, they were right there, 3/4 inch, maybe longer. I would guess he was probably a 4-year-old bird. I mean, he had some girth, he had some battle scars, and that was a very prototypical Nebraska bird where you could tell he wasn't a true Merriam, but he also wasn't an Eastern. He was a lot brighter and had much more color to him, especially to his fan.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring this picture back up, and this really shows like he's almost got that caramel tips to his tail fan.
Yeah, just so pretty, and I mean, he was really loud and proud, and so you can tell that's not an Eastern because it's not that dark brown, especially on the outer fan, and then you also got a lot of brightness going in underneath. So it's definitely a hybrid, I would call it. And it's also one of the things that I think draws so many people to Nebraska as far as turkey hunting, because you can knock down 3 of the birds of the Grand Slam. The only thing we don't have is Osceolas.
Yep. And that's the thing. And the other is the Merriams. They got a little different gobble. From what I've heard and what I've seen, their gobble doesn't sound the same as even a Rio or Eastern, right?
Yeah, a little deeper. I mean, they really get into it. They're loud and proud, and it's crazy when you think about it. This bird that kind of waddles around and pecks at the ground gets your hair on the back of your neck to stand up. When you hear that gobble, and he answers back to you, you just turn into a kid in a candy store all over again. It's just a feeling that it's hard to describe unless you go out and do it, unless you feel it.
And you were mentioning about your ranch, and you said on your ranch, do you have all three of the species in the hybrids as well, or?
Yes. Yeah, we don't see too many straight up Easterns. We really don't.
Yep.
And I see when I want to get rid of the darn thing anyway. I like the colorful feathers, and that's pretty much what we have. Like, um, and I can share more pictures with you of ones that are just bright white, true Miriams. But I can guarantee you're going to have some. There you go. That was one taken last year, and that's a God dang. Let me get this guy here. Uh, this is one of Garrett's buddies, and that's Matt Kosmecki. He owns Idaho Archery.
Okay.
Archery, yeah, archery, Idaho. So he's a big bow guy. But that's our ranch overlooking the Niobrara River there. So really pretty ground. And yeah, once again, that's your prototypical Nebraska bird right there. Real colorful, very pretty.
Yeah, and I want to go, while I have it up here, I'm going to try to go through a couple more. And I thought this was pretty interesting that you showed me. You said this was 3 generations of hunters right here. Is this a part of the ranch as well?
Yeah, so this was a family we brought in out of Minnesota, suburb of Minneapolis. And, that's a father, grandfather, and daughter. And I think she was about 19 years old. And we got each and every one of them a bird. And this was the final morning, and Grandpa still needed to get one. And we got him. We got it done. We got him on a on a field there, and we were able to call some birds in on a overcast morning. So everyone left pretty gosh darn happy, and we were thrilled to death as well.
And is that a Miriam? It looks like it's got a little whiter tips.
Yeah, yep. So that's a lot brighter than that bird that even I shot with the 4 beards.
Yep. So here's another picture. So this is the daughter right here, and she shot 2?
Yep, she doubled up, so, and that was a lot of fun too. So she was kind of one up on her old man and Grandpa. She got 2 toms, and they each only got 1. So that that made it come for a little fun back and forth over the weekend.
And then I think, excuse me, this is the dad right here. So that's another great looking bird, but is that one more of a hybrid, do you think? It's just not quite as white around the tail tips?
I would definitely call that a hybrid. And you can even see within those tips, if you really kind of zoom in on it, though that outer fan, it's more caramelized on the inner part, and then it gets brighter as it goes out. So it's definitely got a lot going on there, and has, a different, I would say, mix of bloodlines going on there. Matt, you actually can't tell the difference between those subspecies of turkeys. If you did like a blood test or something, there's just no way to tell. Then the only way we can tell are the feather color.
Okay. And before we, I want to continue on with our turkey talk, but we better show Ashley's turkey, otherwise she's going to get mad at us, right?
Oh yeah, we got to.
All right, here we go. Here's Ashley's turkey, and this was like the same time frame as your 4-beard, or is this more recent?
That was with the 4-beard, and that might have been one of the first turkeys that we ever got. It wasn't the first. The first one we got was the first turkey season that we went out together, and we were a team, and I was on one tree behind her calling, and she was the point man, the trigger man, sitting in front of me. Anything and everything, Matt, that could go wrong did go wrong. I mean, we blew so many hunts, got busted every which way you could think of. It almost got frustrating, because we were doing this right, but goofing up on that. We even had it happen one time where this tom was being real vocal, off to our right. And so she was just set up, just dead set on it. And this other tom snuck in between me and her, like 5 yards, walked between us, snaked around the decoy, and she was so fixated over here, she just didn't see this tom walk in front of the decoy and back around. And I'm making noise on the call, trying to get all crazy, and that did a total wrong because she was more fixated on that because I was making so much noise. So it was just unbelievable. But that final weekend up on our ranch, we went to some ground that hadn't been hunted a lot, and it was a wild hunt. It was really windy. Conditions weren't good, but my God, it all came together, and it was still the most memorable turkey hunt I've ever been on with my wife. That first season where everything went wrong, but that final weekend, somehow, some way, it came together, and I'll just never forget it. It's actually the fan that we have hung up at our outfitter in the living room there.
Well, we've talked about it a lot. And what is the actual name of your outfitter's business?
So it's Ponca Creek Outfitters, and the lodge, the cabin where we host, families and hunters and groups of people. It's right on the Ponca Creek there, and our ranch is really unique in Nebraska, where it's between the Missouri River and the Niobrara River, like you saw in that picture there. So 7 miles to the north is the Missouri. A couple miles, not even a mile to the south of us is the Niobrara. So this is really hilly ground. It's not flat at all. So like when I would visit people growing up and they would say Nebraska's flat, it's nothing but cornfields. They're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like, it's not the Nebraska I know. So and I get that a lot even to today. It's like, whoa, I've never seen anywhere like this before. So once again, I was just kind of blessed to have a little piece of ground like that we call our ranch.
So you mentioned the Missouri River. What was the other river you kept referring to?
The Niobrara River.
And species of fish, well, I think we all know the species of fish that live in the Missouri River. And I think that this guy right here, excuse me, knows very well what's in the Missouri River. Who is this gentleman we're looking at?
So that's, Thomas Larson. He was on Head to Head. He was on the series there, the circuit. But we picked him up a couple years ago, and he actually heads the guiding services for us when it comes to fishing. So,
yeah, and Tiller Tommy is what people call him, during Head to Head, and he's well known for. But is that a Missouri River walleye, or is that the other river?
that's the Missouri River.
Man.
The fun thing about the Niobrara River, it's not as deep. It's a fast river, but what you can get into there are those saugers.
Yep.
And they make quite a run up the Niobrara River. And before the flood of 2019, remember that just crazy event that just demolished Nebraska and Iowa and everyone downriver.
Yep.
But there was a dam pretty close to us on the Niobrara River, and the saugers would make their run every spring and hit that dam. So if you could time it right, you could really get into them because they would pool up there, during the spawn.
So how do you pick? I mean, here in Wisconsin, we have the same issue, right? We have the walleye run, then we have turkey hunting. I mean, in that location with a gentleman like, Thomas Larson in your back pocket, how do you pick day to day on which activity you want to do?
Well, that's just what you have to do. You gotta bag a bird in the morning and then go walleye fishing in the afternoon, right?
So obviously you mentioned, I mean, as the fishing side of Ponca Creek Outfitters, walleyes, is it bass fishing too, or is there a lot of bass opportunities in that area?
Yeah, so this is a really unique stretch of the Missouri River where we're at. And when I bring people and clients up around Omaha even, they don't believe it because it is crystal clear, it is blue, it's beautiful, and we're between St. Francis Case Dam, it's called Fort Randall Dam, locals call it,
Yep.
and then Gavins Point Dam. And so it's a very regulated stretch of the river, and you really got to know your way around it. I feel like a lot of people don't fish or put their real nice fishing boats on that stretch because they'll bury it. They'll put it in, a sandbar, and it changes every day. So that's why, for me, it's real important to have a guy like Thomas Larson, at least with you, because they know where the channels are, and the channel's constantly moving with the Corps of Engineers opening this dam but leaving this one shut, and you run into those issues. But I will say it's one of the best kept secrets as far as walleye fishing in the state of Nebraska, and you can also get into some really big smallmouth bass. So if you like smallmouth bass and walleye, you can't go wrong with that, our little stretch of the Missouri River there.
Now, with the guide business and the outfitters business, is that a separate reach out, or how do you want people to get in touch with you for that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so you can get a hold of me through any of those other Chasin the Dream mediums. But yeah, there's a website, PoncaCreekOutfitters.com. It's nothing flashy, kind of like our operation, but it gives everybody the information that they're looking for. And since we brought Thomas Larson on board, obviously we're doing a lot more of the hunting and fishing, kind of combo deals.
Yep.
Um, One of the things that we've been getting into, and we're getting more and more into, Ashley's a biologist. She's a science teacher, and her master's capstone project was reintroducing pheasants to a place that had them but lost them. So we used our ranch. So we have a small, but we do have a native pheasant population that we're working on and we're growing. And that's just some of the content that we also share, on Chasin the Dream on our Facebook and Twitter handle and YouTube page as well, the reintroduction of pheasants and trying to make that work as well. So for me, that's what I love to do is figure it out, guys, especially early fall. Hunt in the morning, go fishing in the afternoon when it warms up a little bit with Thomas. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, this is you and your wife are definitely a match made in heaven. I mean, like she's got you with all the hunting and fishing contacts, but on the flip side of that, her biology degree helps you become a better hunter and fisherman, and now you got her, working on getting pheasants back to that part of your ground. So I mean, that's just got to be a beautiful thing.
It really is, and I really do. I'm not just saying. I count my blessings every day being with Ashley, and I hope she doesn't leave me sometime. But
she can't take her pheasants with her though; those got to stay, right?
That's right. So I might have her on the hook there or something. But and that's something that one of the first things we did when we got together and moved in together is we adopted a German short hair pointer, because we always talked about pheasant hunting and how we thought it looked cool and we'd enjoy it. And we thought maybe if we got a pointer, that would kind of push us into it. And it did, of course. And it's one of our favorite things we do every fall now.
And I mean, you just transition right into the next thing. So, I mean, we talked turkeys in the spring, walleye, bass, everything throughout the summer. Maybe we'll see a pheasant population. What about whitetails? Do you have whitetails or do you have mule deer? And do you offer those as well for everybody?
We do, but I will say this. We really try hard not to overhunt or overpressure, especially our deer population.
Yep.
So a lot of that is kind of already spoken for because we have return customers that they already have their deposit in, before this year's hunt's even over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as far as our deer population, when I was growing up and even up till about 5-6 years ago, it was 50% mule deer, 50% whitetail. It was really cool. Since that time, I'd say about 4 years ago, we really started to see the muleys move out. I don't think their numbers are less. They're just a couple miles to the north of us, a couple miles to the east of us now. And I just think that's kind of a natural move that they've been on. And I don't think it's anything like EHD or disease or anything like that. I just think it's kind of how muleys are. They just they're wanderers. You know what I mean?
Yep. So, I mean, again, let's go into a couple of photographs here, and you can kind of describe, and if you got any interesting stories at the same time, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat, but we're going to go right away to the boss's deer. We're going to show this one right here and talk about a great whitetail.
Oh, yeah. So that was Ashley's first whitetail she ever got. And if you look real close, it's a double throat patch. So that cape was actually worth a pretty penny. And we were able to Garrett caped it out, and we were able to find a taxidermist up in Minnesota that really wanted it. So we were able to salt it and put it in dry ice and get it up to him. But like I said, Ashley gets after it, and it was so much fun for us to film this, and then put it all together, and for it to be her first whitetail, because everything she's ever shot has been either a muley buck, or whitetail doe. She does it for herd management and also to put something in the freezer.
Yeah.
So she's never really got into the trophy stuff. Not that she wouldn't. It's just her first goal is to get something in the freezer.
And that's what I think nowadays, that's a hard thing to do as a hunter, because okay, Like I want to fill the freezer, but there's a lot of pressure on shooting a big trophy monster buck, whatever you want to call it. But
Right.
you know, there's times and there's a lot of times where I'll pass up a deer for 3-4 years, and finally I just want to shoot a buck just to say I shot a buck again.
Yeah, and we don't judge. You
No.
know, we try and have, man, at least make it be a 3x3. You know, a 2.5, 3-year-old. But when it comes to Garrett and I and Ashley, you know, and my brothers, we're extremely selective, and we don't want to take a buck unless he's 4 years old or older. You know, otherwise we are content taking doe. So, but I get it when a guy's out coming from Michigan, or we get a lot of guys from Indiana and Illinois coming out, and I mean when they see a buck like what you just saw there with Ashley, that is a trophy for them. That's a really big deer. So like we're not going to sit there and say no, wait for a bigger one. You know what I mean? There is that balance.
Right. So this is one here that if anybody follows your YouTube channel, which they should, I mean, you should definitely do it. This deer right here has a very familiar story, and now I just messed this up, darn it. Andy! There we go. All right, this one right here. Who is this deer?
Oh yeah, so that's Southpaw. So that was the previous season. One of our hit list bucks. He went by the name Southpaw because his left antler just towered, just dwarfed his right antler. And we have a lot of history with this buck, over 3 years of trail camera photos. And I mean, he went from a 2x4 to a 3x8 when he was 3 years old. I mean, this guy was gnarly, and we had no idea what was going on with him. And then when he got to be a 5-year-old, like you see right here, his right antler kind of caught up to him. He scored it like a 140, but he was just a mammoth, huge, big Nebraska buck with a disappropriate size that left antler. And once we cleaned him, and I got the mount back, he's on my wall now. But his skull, that right side was totally like all regrowth. You could tell he had an accident when he was a younger buck, probably hit by a car or a truck.
Wow, and that's the cool thing about, I mean, managing land and, you know, paying attention to your deer is, you know, seeing a story like that. Yeah. I could only imagine, because you said that buck was how old roughly? 5 years old or 4 or 5?
He was at least 5.5 when we harvested him. We have over 3 years of trail camera photos, and you know, I mean, we do it all. We really like to put all the, you know, deer feed. We work with guys here in Nebraska that make a mineral by the name of Next Level, and it's pretty good stuff. It's always treated us right, and we like to think that probably helped. You know, it didn't hurt him kind of bouncing back. I like doing that stuff more for the doe, you know, coming out of winter, and especially when they start to gain weight and have a you know, a baby and all that stuff. That's kind of more where I come from. I suppose that's the biologist
Well,
from my life kind of taking hold. But with the bucks, I think it's an age thing more than anything. I really do. You let them grow, you let them get to 5, 6 years old, you're going to have a pretty good rack regardless.
yeah, but the cool thing for what I'm understanding is for Nebraska, and again, this is controversial wherever you go, is the ability to feed, right? Now, can you feed during the deer season as well?
No.
Okay, and that's the way I could catch each for that. I wish Wisconsin would go back to, or allow mineral in the off season this time of year, because my best friend and I, we like to talk about deer hunting just like anybody's do, and we feel that the minerals help. And a deer like Southpaw, is pretty evident that, you know, if the severe injury like that, the supplemental feeding, food plots, mineral, all that stuff probably help that deer rehabilitate and put that mass and the antler growth back on. But a healthy doe has a healthy fawn, and that just jumpstarts the process all over again.
It really does, and especially we're running into a problem right now with mountain lions.
Okay.
And way too many coyotes. So if you can help that doe and have a kind of a mineral plan and supplemental feed like we do, high in protein, that really ups the odds for her to give twins. You know, 2 little baby fawns running around. So that doubles your odds, right? To help sustain your herd. And if, you know, the mountain lion season is kind of a joke where they only allow 10 permits that really doesn't impact anything. But I'll tell you what, it's had a heck of an impact. And this is another, you got to be careful. I don't want to tick anybody off or get in an argument over shooting mountain lions or any of that type of stuff. But it has had an effect, a direct effect on the white-tailed deer population in Nebraska. That's for sure.
Meaning as far as allowing more of the population of white-tailed deer to grow and expand throughout those areas.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you've seen a decline. You talk to some people in southwestern Nebraska, where mountain lions have been after it there for a little bit longer than I would say here. I mean, as far as a sustainable population, where you actually have trail camera photos of a female with her cubs.
Yep.
It's not just a random male. That's kind of, we see mostly that, but now you're starting to see, mamas running around with their cubs, and it's undeniable now. Your NRDs or game and parks can't tell you, oh, no, that's a bobcat or whatever. No, it's on our trail camera, and we got it right here.
Yeah, the evidence is one thing that they can't deny, and we just have, excuse me, we have the opposite problem in northern Wisconsin. We have the wolf population, and that is a controversial thing. I mean, we went up and filmed a hunt for bobcats, and my buddy and I did, and he actually was successful in getting a bobcat in northern Wisconsin up by Superior, but we saw way more wolf tracks than we did deer tracks at the time, and it's the same thing. I mean, you can't deny it anymore. They know there's wolves in these areas. It just depends on what is the right management plan for the deer herd, the wolves, or the mountain lions, and everything else to be that fine balance. And you got to give the DNRs in each state a lot of credit, because think about the amount of work and the amount of effort that goes into it to keep us, the hunters and the fishermen, extremely happy.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I also think that, there is a place for these predators that used to be here. I don't want to eradicate wolves or mountain lions or coyotes for that matter. It's just that there's a balance, and hunters could be the resource. They could be part of the answer.
Yep.
They don't, right now, I feel like it's hunters versus, the game and parks or the NRD and the public. And that really shouldn't be the way it is. And in reality, I don't think it is. No one cares more about conservation and being a good steward of the land and all these things more than me, more than an outdoorsman, and that's the same for mountain lions, wolves, whatever, deer, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and if we don't have those type of seasons, you and I don't have a job, something to talk about, something to educate the public on. So again, it's just, I love it. It's hunters. We got to be united, but we also have to educate, and there's a lot of opportunities that you and I have, Andy, on our platforms to educate as well as entertain. And I think that's what both of our channels try to do, or both of our shows try to do, is, like you said earlier, I'm not the best hunter, nor am I the best fisherman, and I'll never tell anybody that I am. But I feel like I can relate to somebody that maybe is a little nervous to ask those questions or to put themselves out on a limb, and show that, hey, you don't have to be nervous about doing this kind of stuff. There's a lot of people out there that are learning and you have that thirst for knowledge, and that's what we can try to do our best of.
Well, yeah, I think the education side of it is just so critical for the modern day outdoorsman, especially if we're, that's one of the things with COVID is we saw a spike, right? In fishing and hunting and people getting back outdoors. And that was a good thing. But it was in a constant decline for about 20 years straight, so you started to see more funding and things go away from outdoorsmen. And you also had old grouchy deer hunters not wanting any more deer hunters, pressuring or this or that. So it was like, there was this storm that was all kind of pushing people out of the outdoors industry. And I feel wholeheartedly where your show and what we can do on our show to try and bring new people into it, whether it's women, youngsters, whatever. I do feel that there's a responsibility there. And to piggyback on what you're saying with the educational side, when Garrett, he wants to, you want to look like you're the authority and you know what you're doing. And he does. He's like the best bow hunter I know I've ever seen get after it. But he had a shot where a deer slipped him, it went under his arrow.
Yep.
And he made this entire episode over how and why that happened and really broke it down. And we got more feedback, more questions, more people making comments like, I'm glad you showed that than any other episodes. And you could say it was a failure. It was a missed shot. It skimmed off his back. But since he got into the educational side of it and helped the viewer understand why and what went wrong and maybe what he could have done to avoid an arrow, just skimming across the back, and could have been one of those shots that just injures the deer, which you hate. You don't want that. So it was kind of eye-opening, I think, for us that, all right, maybe this is more of what we need to do, implement the educational side rather than try and put ourselves on this soapbox and look like we know everything about white-tailed deer or whatever.
Yeah, and I use this term a lot, but it's the raw emotional side of it all. It's the vulnerability. I mean, like, you could also put yourself out there and people could just, the haters or whatever, the trolls could just, demoralize you in a way, but you understand that, hey, I help, maybe it's only one person, realize that this stuff happens and mistakes happen, and you know what, that's not the intention and everything like that, but again, it's showing that vulnerability that a hunter, a fisherman goes through. It's the highs and the lows. You could have the biggest deer in the world, you make a bummer shot on it, and then you find it a couple days later. Yeah, you still have the rack and everything like that, but you didn't get the whole harvest. You didn't get the meat and everything like that. So it is a tough job to do it, and you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And I did watch that episode, and I watched Garrett's big deer, and I watched a lot of the upcoming shows that you guys are putting forth. They're not the upcoming ones, but the newer ones, and it's a really awesome channel. Chasin the Dream TV is what it is, and I want to get to this before I get to this. I got one more picture because I think this is going to lead into a good ending to the show of something that's coming forth for you guys. But Jigmeister number 9 on here says, turkeys in the morning, walleyes in the afternoon. I absolutely love it, and I agree. I mean, and that's another thing that you, again, tell everybody if they want those opportunities to chase turkeys in the morning and walleyes in the afternoon, where is that information they got to go find?
Ponca Creek Outfitters, all one word, .com. And that's something that we're really getting big into is the combo hunt, fish, cast, blast type of stuff, whether it's pheasants, turkeys. We also have a lot of farm ponds that, loaded with bluegill and largemouth bass. And more times than not, guys just want to do that, just take it easy and just have that old Zebco 33, on a farm pond and catch some largemouth, and we kind of throw the keys at you to the ranch and say, have at it. This is your trip. Have fun.
Sweet. And I'm still waiting for my keys to arrive. I think I should be expecting them sometime next week, right?
We were talking a little bit beforehand, and I forgot to mention, Matt, I think I got something worked out for you.
Yes.
I think we're gonna get you.
I hope so, buddy. And if it doesn't happen this year, I know just the relationship you and I are building is gonna, pay off dividends for both of us in the future. But speaking of future, again, your YouTube episodes, I think I hit the nail on the head when I say that this is probably a big episode coming forth, and I'm gonna show the picture. And again, is this one that people at home can expect to see pretty soon?
Yeah, so this was this year's buck that I was fortunate enough to get on. His name was, and Garrett does this, he names all of the deer that we have on our ranch, and he can just catch a glimpse of an antler, and he can tell you what buck that is. And it was just cold as all get out, opening day of rifle season. And nothing, we saw a lot of action, but nothing happened. The following day, the Sunday, we went back to that same hillside just because we saw so much action. And it was cold, windy. After about an hour of sitting there after daybreak, you kind of want to get up and move because it was just so miserable. Well, out of the corner of Garrett's eye, about a quarter mile away, he saw this guy, the perfect 10, with the doe. And he started going crazy because he knew who he was right away. He goes, we got to make a move. We got to make a move. If we're going to get him, he's only going to stay there as long as the doe stays there. I'm like, all right, well, let's do it. I feel like I'm kind of in shape. I'm like, well, all right, let's go. Let's run them down. And we're on basically a cliff over. So Garrett's like, all right, get your stuff, let's go. And he just took off running. And I'm trying to keep up with this guy with my 30-06. And he runs down a ravine, up a ravine. We're going through cedar trees, jumping over streams. And, and it was all because, once again, Garrett did his homework. So he had a path cut out so he could slip in when he was bow hunting. We ran that path and up it and crawled within 150 yards and got right on top of him, got behind some cedar trees. And I mean, I'm going like this. I was breathing so heavy. And he laid down. And I'm like, Garrett, I'd be shooting through some grass here. Maybe we should wait till he gets back up. And thank God, Garrett's like, that's fine. We'll wait for him to get up. But when he does, take the shot. So that allowed me to kind of settle down.
Yeah.
And get the crosshairs on him and feel good about my shot. But that was another one of those deals where we had a lot of history with this guy over a couple of years of trail camera pictures. So we kind of had him, we knew he was around. And he got the name Perfect 10 because we have a trail camera photo of his antlers like this. And it looks like there's just one antler because he was just symmetrical.
Yep.
And I think he scored at 149 and a half. And he only had about a quarter inch of deductions because he was so symmetrical.
Oh man. When do you think that episode is going to be hitting your YouTube channel?
That's going to be around August. We like to kind of, season them out. So right now, what you're going to start seeing is a lot of turkey hunting episodes, brand new turkey hunting episodes come out.
Nice. Again, so I want to say thank you so much, Andy, for joining us or joining me tonight. I had a lot of fun. I really appreciate the relationship that you and I have, and we have grown, and I think it's going to be a good one. And again, just tell everybody all the information, whether it's the Outfitters business or the TV or even the local news station, where they can all find your information.
Right on. So yeah, on News Channel Nebraska, and that's all over the place. It's on Dish Network. It's just an independent channel, but we're on Saturday and Sunday mornings, 6:30 and 7 a.m. Every Saturday and Sunday. But a lot of folks are starting to follow us on our YouTube channel, and that's Chasin, Chasin, and it's hyphen The Dream TV. And we're getting much better at consistently putting out content over that channel. We're also on Facebook, Chasin the Dream TV, and Twitter. And then, of course, Ponca Creek Outfitters.com is the outfitter side. But any one of those mediums or channels, you reach out and we'll get back to you, usually within a couple hours.
Well, again, buddy, I really appreciate it. I'm going to let you go so you can carry on with your Wednesday evening with the rest of your family. But thank you again so much, and I look forward to chatting with you pretty darn soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Matt. Really enjoyed it.
All right, we'll see you, Andy. So again, everybody, that's Andy with Chasin the Dream TV. It's a phenomenal channel. They do a great job. That platform is outstanding. I highly recommend you go over there, give him a subscribe on his YouTube channel, follow him on all the Instagram, Facebook platforms, all that kind of stuff, and look up that Outfitters business. If you're interested in a walleye trip in the morning and a turkey trip or vice versa, it's Ponca Creek Outfitters. Look for them there. And again, one last thing. I got to give a big shout out to the Real Shot. Without them, none of my dreams are a possibility. So big shout out to the Real Shot. Thank you so much. Shop either in store or online at therealshot.com. And do me a favor, while you're over there, use the code they provided me. It's TGLTV20, TGLTV20, and that'll save you $20 off a purchase of $100 or more on regularly priced items. So again, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Watch my social media pages. We got more episodes coming forth, just like Andy mentioned, on his platforms as well. Other than that, like I always say here at The Guide to Life, we'll see you on the next one.